The National Electrical Code, or NEC, does not explicitly require pigtailing splices for 120 volts, 15 or 20 amps receptacles. Article 300.15 of the NEC permits the use of screw terminals or stab-in connectors for splices under specific conditions. Firstly, the splices must remain accessible after installation. Secondly, the devices must be specifically listed for the use of multiple conductors within the same terminal. This means the receptacle itself must be designed and approved for handling multiple wires connected to a single terminal point. Article 404.9 of the NEC addresses the insulation of splices. It mandates that splices be covered with an insulating material. However, this article does not dictate that pigtails must be used to achieve proper insulation. Pigtailing, for clarity, involves creating a separate, short wire that connects to the device terminal while the main circuit conductors are joined together using a splice such as a wire connector. Given these code provisions, it is generally acceptable to splice conductors inside a receptacle box using the screw terminals or stab-in connectors of a listed device, provided you adhere to the conditions outlined in Article 300.15, and subsequently wrap the splice with approved electrical tape to ensure proper insulation as per Article 404.9a. However, a critical caveat exists. The NEC typically disallows the use of back-wired devices in conjunction with splices. Back-wired devices, which often utilize a pressure plate or similar mechanism to secure the wire, may have their connection integrity compromised when subjected to the added bulk and potential movement of a splice. The pressure-based connection may not adequately accommodate the splice, leading to a loose connection, arcing, or even a fire hazard. Therefore, if using screw terminals or stab-in connectors for splicing within a receptacle box, ensure that the device is not a back-wired type. Always consult the manufacturer's instructions for the specific receptacle being used, as these instructions may provide further details or limitations on the use of multiple conductors in the terminals. It is also crucial to emphasize that while the NEC permits these methods, good electrical practice often favors pigtailing for enhanced safety and reliability. Pigtailing minimizes the strain on the device terminals and reduces the risk of a loose connection affecting the entire circuit. When performing any electrical work, always prioritize safety. De-energize the circuit at the breaker panel before commencing any wiring activities. Use appropriate personal protective equipment, such as insulated gloves and safety glasses. If you are unfamiliar or uncomfortable with electrical work, it is always best to consult a qualified and licensed electrician. The NEC is a comprehensive document, and local amendments or interpretations may exist. Always consult the latest edition of the NEC and any applicable local codes or regulations to ensure compliance. Firstly, understand the circuit. Before starting any work, identify the circuit you will be working on and de-energize it at the circuit breaker. Confirm that the circuit is de-energized using a non-contact voltage tester. Secondly, inspect the receptacle box. Examine the receptacle box for any signs of damage, such as cracks or broken mounting tabs. Replace the box if necessary. Ensure that the box is adequately sized to accommodate the wires, splices, and the receptacle itself. Thirdly, prepare the wires. Strip the insulation from the ends of the wires to expose the correct amount of conductor. Use a wire stripper tool to avoid nicking or damaging the conductors. If the existing wires are damaged or corroded, cut them back to a clean section of wire. Fourthly, make the connections. When using screw terminals, create a loop in the end of the wire and place it clockwise around the screw. Tighten the screw securely. When using stab-in connectors, insert the wire fully into the connector until it is firmly seated. Ensure that the wire gauge is compatible with the stab-in connector. Fifthly, insulate the splices. If splicing wires together, use appropriately sized wire connectors, also known as wire nuts. Twist the wires together tightly and screw the wire connector onto the wires until it is snug. Wrap the wire connector with electrical tape for added insulation. Sixthly, mount the receptacle. Carefully fold the wires into the receptacle box, ensuring that they are not pinched or damaged. Align the receptacle with the mounting holes in the box and secure it with screws. Seventhly, test the receptacle. After installing the receptacle, test it with a receptacle tester to ensure that it is wired correctly and that the ground connection is intact. 8thly, restore power. Turn the circuit breaker back on and verify that the receptacle is working properly. 9thly, document your work. Keep a record of the electrical work that you have performed, including the date, the location, and a description of the work. This information can be helpful for future maintenance or repairs. 10thly, seek professional help. If you are not comfortable performing electrical work yourself, or if you encounter any problems, consult a qualified electrician. Electrical work can be dangerous, and it is important to take precautions to protect yourself and your property. When connecting wires to screw terminals, it's essential to create a proper loop in the wire. The loop should be formed in a clockwise direction so that when the screw is tightened, it pulls the wire more securely under the screw head rather than pushing it away. Use the correct size and type of wire connectors for the gauge and number of wires being spliced. Overfilling a wire connector can lead to loose connections, while using a connector that is too small can damage the wires. When wrapping wire connectors with electrical tape, overlap the tape slightly with each wrap to create a secure and waterproof seal. Extend the tape onto the wire insulation for added protection. When folding wires into the receptacle box, avoid sharp bends or kinks, which can damage the insulation and reduce the current carrying capacity of the wires. If the receptacle box is crowded, consider using a deeper box or a box extender to provide more space for the wires and splices. When testing a receptacle with a receptacle tester, pay attention to the indicator lights to identify any wiring errors such as an open ground, open neutral, or reversed polarity. Correct any wiring errors immediately to prevent electrical hazards. When working on electrical circuits, always wear appropriate personal protective equipment such as insulated gloves, safety glasses, and arc-rated clothing. These items can help protect you from electric shock, burns, and other injuries. Before starting any electrical work, take the time to plan your work carefully and gather all the necessary materials and tools. This will help you work more efficiently and safely. If you are working in a damp or wet environment, be extra cautious to avoid electric shock. Use ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFCIs, and ensure that all electrical equipment is properly grounded. Never work on electrical circuits while standing in water or while your hands are wet. If you are unsure about any aspect of electrical work, do not hesitate to ask for help from a qualified electrician. It is always better to be safe than sorry. When working with aluminum wire, use connectors and devices that are specifically designed for use with aluminum. Aluminum wire expands and contracts more than copper wire, and using the wrong connectors can lead to loose connections and overheating. Regularly inspect your electrical system for any signs of damage or wear, such as frayed wires, cracked outlets, or loose connections. Repair or replace any damaged components promptly to prevent electrical hazards. Keep electrical panels and equipment clear of obstructions such as boxes, furniture, or flammable materials. This will allow for easy access in case of an emergency. Install smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors throughout your home to provide early warning of fires and carbon monoxide leaks. Test these detectors regularly to ensure that they are working properly. Have your electrical system inspected by a qualified electrician periodically to identify any potential problems and ensure that your system is up to code. In summary, the NEC permits the use of screw terminals or stab-in connectors for splicing within receptacle boxes under specific conditions. Always adhere to safety precautions, consult the manufacturer's instructions, and seek professional help when needed. By following these guidelines, you can ensure safe and compliant electrical installations. The information provided should not be considered a substitute for professional advice from a licensed electrician or other qualified expert. Always consult with a qualified professional before making any decisions about electrical work. Failure to do so could result in serious injury or property damage. This information is intended for general guidance only and does not constitute a comprehensive or exhaustive treatment of the subject matter. The NEC is a complex and constantly evolving document, and it is essential to stay up to date with the latest changes and interpretations. Always consult the latest edition of the NEC and any applicable local codes or regulations to ensure compliance. The author and publisher of this information assume no responsibility for any errors or omissions, or for any damages arising from the use of this information.